and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Have a seat. Appreciate everyone being here this evening. Roll call.
Holcomb.
Here.
Nikki. Here. Sarah. Here. Phillips.
Here.
Mike.
Here.
John.
Here.
Page.
Here.
Lemmings.
Here.
Bass.
Here.
We're going to have several changes as we go on the agenda. I don't think anyone wants to read the budget in its entirety. We'll probably want to do that by title only. But since we have such a thick packet, if you guys don't care, let's just leave the agenda the way it is. We'll suspend the rules as we go and take care of it that way. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes and financials?
I did have one question.
Of course.
About the treasurer's report on the soil conservation and the aging program. I noticed that they were in the red.
They're that way every
Okay.
year. It's because of the final settlement. They'll be that way for a couple of months.
Okay. Just wanted to verify that. That was my only question.
Good question.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No judges' comments. Do we have any elected officials or department heads that would like to address the court this evening? Court, do you have any questions for any of the elected officials or department heads? Moving on, our next item for discussion is going to be the 2022 audit. Did everyone get a copy of their audit? Everyone had one mailed to you, correct? What you'll see is there was only one reportable finding. And is Tammy Mackham here tonight? She's not. The one reportable finding was from district court, and it's been an issue for several years. And what that is, it's a discrepancy that goes back farther than we know. And they've gone back to, I think it's 06 or 04, and they found most of it. So they're working with attorneys and state legislative audit to finally get that cleaned up once and for all. Because that's haunted us for a lot of years. And we think the discrepancy came from if someone made a payment at the last minute online of the day, it wasn't capturing that. So it was applying to their credit, but it wasn't capturing it in full circle. So even though the books weren't off, it made it appear as though they were. But that's what I know about that finding. And then, of course, we have detailed financials. Is there any other discussion or questions about the 2022 audit before we vote to acknowledge that we've received it? Okay. I would entertain a motion to acknowledge the 2022 audit, that we received it, and that we accept it.
So moved.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to accept the audit. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That moves us on to further new business. And our first ordinance is sponsored by Mike Bradford.
Be it enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, an appropriation ordinance to be entitled, an appropriation ordinance to amend the original appropriation ordinance number 2022-58, the annual operating budget for 2023, to increase the projected revenue and appropriate $141.44 into the Election Commission budget number 1000-109. Whereas a refund for mileage was received from the State Board of Election Commission on 12/11/2023 for 2 election commissioners who attended training, and whereas this money will need to be appropriated into the Election Commission budget. Now, therefore, be it ordained by the Quorum Court of Van Buren County, Arkansas, that Section 1, $141.44 be appropriated into the Election Commission budget number 1000-109-3030 travel. I move we accept this as as written.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Holcomb,
Yes.
Nikki,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Paige,
Yes.
Lemmings,
Yeah.
Bass.
Yes.
BO 2023-51.
Our next ordinance is sponsored by Mary Phillips.
Be it enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, an appropriation ordinance to be entitled, an appropriation ordinance to amend the original appropriation ordinance number 2022-58, the annual operating budget for 2023, to increase the projected revenue and appropriate $37,160.97 into the county road fund, number 2000-200, and to transfer $28,876.02 within county general to distribute payouts to county employees who waived county-provided insurances. Whereas the county provides health, dental, and vision coverage to all full-time county employees at no cost to the employee. And whereas per the county personnel policy, an employee may waive county provided insurance and choose to select their own, not including marketplace government discounted insurance, and receive 75% cash payout for the cost of the premium. Now, therefore, be it ordained by the Quorum Court of Van Buren County, Arkansas, that, Section 1, the following be appropriated into each line of the county road fund: $30,063.78 into 2000-200-1001 salaries full-time, $2,299.88 into 2000-200-1006 Social Security, $4,797.31 into 2000-200-1008 retirement for certain employees, and Section 2, paid to a certain employee from the Solid Waste Fund, $7,661.97. Section 3, the following being transferred into each budget for the county general fund: $15,031.89 into 1000-105-1001 salaries full-time, $1,149.94 into 1000-105-1006 Social Security, $2,487.10 into 1000-105-1008 retirement. From line 1000-105-1009 health insurance for certain employees, and $7,661.97 into 1000-400-1001 salaries full-time, $586.14 into 1000-400-1006 Social Security, $1,173.81 into 1000-400-1008 retirement. From line 1000-400-1009 health insurance for a certain employee, and $638.50 into 1000-103-1001 salaries full-time, $48.85 into 1000-103-1006 Social Security, $97.82 into 1000-103-1008 retirement, and from line 1000-103-1009 health insurance for a certain employee. I did not write this, I am reading this, okay? And I have certain problems with this.
Okay, do we hear a motion for approval?
I make a motion for discussion.
I was about to do that. Yeah, I need a motion
A motion.
and second so we can discuss it.
Okay. So Nikki's a motion, and who's a second?
I second.
Okay, and Esther will second. Discussion.
All right. I'm unsure. Look, if you look at the second whereas, we have received a 75% cash payout for cash payout. We can stop right there. We've talked over and over and over, that's supposed to be the reimbursement. And this negates the wording of what's to be in the personnel policy per the last meeting. And I'm just curious, why does it say a cash payout?
I think the personnel policy is supposed to be read tonight.
Yes.
It hasn't been passed.
I don't know, you told me per email that I was not on the agenda. I had it ready for you on Monday, and you told me that it was not going to be on the agenda. It was not on the agenda, and I had sent it to you.
I hadn't received it. The personnel policy?
The ordinance. The ordinance, because Carol did it.
I hadn't received an ordinance for the personnel policy.
I sent it. And I got a reply, I am not on the agenda. That the personnel policy was not on the agenda. I can get my phone out.
I wish you would, because I sure don't remember that. I don't remember seeing any kind of ordinance for the personnel policy.
Yes, ma'am. Carol did it. Carol wrote it for me, and I sent it, you and I finished it last Friday night. And I sent it on Monday.
Well, with that aside, is there discussion beyond whether that was sent?
This would, if we, as we've discussed, doing it as a reimbursement, this is putting these funds into, with the reimbursement, since we haven't talked about that one yet, I don't know if we need to table this and go back to it, because we talked about a reimbursement taxes not being taken out of it and all those things. So this would go against the decision made in the Budget Committee and in the Personnel Policy Committee.
Okay, it's my understanding from the Budget Committee that with the audit, legislative audit said we could not do it that way, and it was supposed to be looked at later on. That was what was their discussion in the budget meeting.
But I never received any written, I don't have any clarification of that.
Okay, but you said it said we needed to, it had to be discussed farther to find out, because we had two people saying different things.
Right, and we did discuss it in the Personnel Committee meeting as well.
But the legislative audit said we can't do it that way, and so that's what we got. The problem here is we got Pam and Misty, who their job is to keep the numbers and correct them. We're wanting to use the money and do what we need to do, and I understand that. But when they come back, they're the ones who get this audit. They have to prepare for it. And so when we talked about it, it was told in the meeting, in our budget meeting, and when we were sitting there, that we could not do it that way because legislative audit said we could not. So that was a discussion.
But I just have to be clear that, and I agree that she did say that, but there was also this, clearly from the personnel policy, this was coming to this meeting, was supposed to be on this agenda as far as changing that policy. And I feel like by now, since that was supposed, that we should see some kind of documentation from legislative audit saying we can't do this and here's the reasons. Because just that we can't do it is not enough for me. I need to see why we can't do it, if that makes sense. And so I don't understand why that's still, because I do think it needed to be looked at forward more, but we still haven't got that. So I don't feel like it's constantly our job to hunt down and try to find it and try to figure. We need to be fed, we need to be given the information we ask for.
But when we've got discrepancy in what's been said to us, how do you know what's?
Well, because I feel like this is the, because we can't make a decision in committee. I mean, we can only make it here.
Right.
And so I feel like knowing that this is on the agenda and it's going to be discussed, there should be documentation of why we can't do it.
I have talked to the auditors. Of course, they said we can't do it. I've called IRS several times every day and hadn't been able to get a call back yet. And that's who I'm waiting on documentation from, because that is who, if we do it as a refund and we get in trouble for that, then we'll end up paying fines and penalties. It's going to cost the county more money.
But that's an if. I mean, like, I feel like we need to base it on, like, why did they say that we can't do it?
Because it's salary. If you're reimbursing somebody, they have to turn in something showing that they're out of pocket. So you reimburse them what they're out of pocket. If you pay them more than that, then that is part of their salary.
Well, I don't know if it's different with county government, and that's why I would like to read that. But, like, I do that at my job. And, like, I go through an accountant, and I can reimburse myself for my insurance. And, like, you can also do that as a benefit to employees. I mean, we've been doing that. I understand that we're wanting to change it to reimbursement, but it was also my understanding that David had spoken to people that had said that it was okay to do it that way.
I did.
Who did you speak to?
I'll have to go back and get you my notes, and I'll give you those names. I can do that.
Who did you speak to at legislative audit? Who told you we can't do it?
Christie, the auditor that audits us every year.
When I called AAC and inquired about it, I was told to refer to our county lawyer. And 9 times out of 10, when I call AAC, I'm told to refer to our county lawyer. So I'll leave it at that.
Well, for me to do it the way y'all are wanting, I'll have to have proof showing that I can. Because our auditor said that we can. We shouldn't do that.
Shouldn't do that or can't do that?
We can't do that. It's not legal.
Well, wait a minute, how many years have we been doing this, getting this reimbursement?
I have.
Is it,
It's never been.
I should have made some copies, I
it
guess.
should be in this report here then, if it's
There's,
illegal about it.
My understanding is there's never been an audit finding reported or supplemental that the policy that has been in place, there's anything wrong with that.
Well, we've always done it as a payout. Taxes and retirement has always come out of it.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying that Christy told you, like on a phone conversation, because you don't have it in writing,
Right.
that the reimbursement is not legal.
Right. If they want to turn in something showing what they paid for insurance, then we can reimburse them that.
Mm-hmm.
But any more than that would be added to their salary, counted as income.
Is it because of the verbiage? Is it because we're using
It's
the word
100% verbiage.
Yeah.
reimbursement?
Because basically what this amounts to is earned income. And it's not earned income either, because it is something that is given back to them. So it's 100% verbiage. So the word reimbursement is what is kicking this thing down the road. That's what's getting it. I think that the question at hand now is the personnel policy has not changed, correct?
It will be tonight, and I need to add an apology to you. I think it went back and forth between Carol and I. It got tagged on to the end of all the stuff you sent out, and I sent it. Did you get a copy of it?
Of the ordinance?
Yes. Well, you sent the ordinance to me, but perhaps did you get one back from me? But I attached it. No, I think I remember trying to look up your email. Yeah.
So the other thing too is there's nothing illegal according to AAC. And I'll have to look at my notes and tell you who I spoke to. There's nothing that is wrong with giving the employee back that amount. There's no law, there's no rule, there's no ordinance that is broken. It's just that if it's labeled that way, then it's earned income, and the salary has got to be adjusted in the budget in order to reflect that. Because they budget, and I'm just gonna use an arbitrary number, 50,000 for the salary, but once they receive the payout, then now that salary is 55,000, and that's not what the budget said. So the verbiage is what's got this thing kicked out. If it comes reimbursement, then no taxes are held out of a reimbursement. Because I get one of those every Friday.
I mean, it's a pretty common employment practice, so this wouldn't be the first, body that would be doing something like this.
Right.
Which is why I'm surprised to hear that she told you on the phone that it's not legal.
I would be, I mean, it would be more, it's more surprising to me that it hasn't come up in audit that we're paying all of these paying the fringe benefit amounts based on.
That's not the problem. I mean, that's
Because
fine.
that increases their income, their salary. I mean, so their retirement would be based on a number that's not correct. So, and now in saying that, that's what brought this up.
Correct.
Paying them for their insurance is not the problem. That's not what she's saying illegal. What would be illegal is if we called it a reimbursement
So we just need to call it something else.
and we don't take taxes out of it.
I guess the point is we're trying to, I think the court has decided that if there is a mechanism, because we think through some research that there is, to pay them out their insurance without taxes, we want to do that. We just need the magic word to be able to do that. And so that's what we're trying to get to. Mm-hmm. So if the hang up is reimbursement, then okay, how can we do this? Because I think it is a common practice. And I understand that we have regulations that we have to follow, but we also, if multiple people have talked and it seems to not be legal if done a certain way, then we want to do it that way, if that makes sense. I mean, we can't just we need to figure out a way to make it happen.
Mm-hmm. And we thought the word was reimburse,
So.
And we do have it in the new personnel policy update. Reimburse.
Okay, so I have a word for you. Can you call it a stipend? Because I think, and I have not researched this, but I think that if you use the word stipend, it's not taxable either.
That is correct. My pay in my personal job is from the federal government. I get a cell phone stipend. One of my stipends is a cell phone stipend. It's a certain amount. It's not based off of what I pay. It's just a flat rate, and it is not taxed. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't count towards my salary or anything like that. It is a stipend.
Or you're getting into your retirement benefits or anything like that. Yeah.
Could we make the insurance a stipend?
Probably. I mean, I don't see a reason. I don't know of a reimbursement. The only information I have that the reimbursement is a problem is what Pam is saying that the legislative audit has told her. So, and I don't usually, I'm a little surprised, I don't usually know legislative audit to give, they usually don't give, in my experience, they don't give advisory advice like on the front end. It's usually on the back end. If you've done something wrong, they come in. So if I had known, that, I would be happy to call her and talk to her about it. When did you talk to her?
Maybe last week.
So you just called her up and asked her if that was okay, and she said no, it's not legal.
She said that it's not considered a reimbursement, it's considered income.
Yeah.
But then she told me to call IRS I told her I needed something in writing, and she wanted me to call IRS.
Can it not just be a payout, a fringe benefit payout? Like
So if it's a payout, then it's going to be earned income, and earned income is taxable. That I do know.
You have to make sure that it's clear in the language what you're trying to do, right? And so there's not some, usually in the law, there's not some magic word. That as long as you use this magic word and not that one, you're okay. And if not this one, you're in a heap of trouble. As long as it's clear what the body's intending to do. And that's what, I mean, in my experience, that's what audit or whoever looks at. It's going to be the entire document, whether it's an ordinance like this, whether it's a personnel policy.
I think the thing to consider here is that this, what we're discussing, should be after the personnel policy is voted on. But if the wording is what is tripping up, then the wording in the personnel policy needs to change as well in order to reflect it on this one. Because I think that basically we've got the cart before the horse in the ordinance order. Because right now, the way the personnel policy said, this is the way we've got to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Once the personnel policy changes, then this can change. So it might be. I think too, we ought to look at this word stipend instead of reimbursement. I think that might get us out of the crosshairs.
I would entertain a motion to table this until the end of the ordinance section.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to table this ordinance until later in this meeting.
Okay, so on that, not on this ordinance, do we have access to the one that Carol wrote? And can we consider that at the end of this meeting as well? Rather than this one?
No.
It's what's in front of me.
Okay, so any more discussion? All in favor of the table motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Excellent. We'll come right back to that. Our next ordinance is sponsored by Justice Sarah Brown.
Be it enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled, an ordinance to transfer and appropriate monies to the Corps of Engineers, line item 1000-410, to cover the last two payrolls of 2023 and to pay out comp time. Whereas Personal Services and Corps of Engineers Department 1000-410 has run in the red after the November 30th, 2023 payroll, and whereas monies will need to be transferred from line item 2007 fuel, oil, lube, and 100410 2023 parts and repairs to cover deficiencies and to cover the last two payrolls for 2023. And whereas the employee of the Corps of Engineers Department has accrued comp time of 80 hours that should be paid out before the first of the year. And whereas monies will need to be transferred from lines 2007 fuel, oil, and lubricants and 2003 parts and repairs to cover the cost of paying out comp time. Now therefore be it ordained by the Quorum Court of Van Buren County, Arkansas, that $3,604.54 be transferred from 2007 fuel, oil, and lubricants to 1001 salaries full-time, $254.08 from 2023 parts and repairs to 1006 Social Security, $315.89 from 2023 parts and repairs to 1008 retirement, $793.26 from 2023 parts and repairs to 1009 health insurance, $101.93 from 2023 parts and repairs to 1010 workers comp, and 74 cents from 2023 parts and repairs to 1014 Cobra, totaling $5,070.44. The only thing I see is the health insurance line. It's just a typo, but it's a dollar sign instead of a line item pound sign. Is that anything that we need to?
It's an obvious Scrivener's error.
Yeah, okay. I make a motion, we approve as written.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. Any discussion?
Yeah, I have a question. Is it not the Corps of Engineers, one of those that we get reimbursed for? Correct? It's what?
Contract.
It's a contract.
Yes, you're correct. We do get a reimbursement.
So that is in their budget in a different line item. And because they had money left in that line item, what they're wanting to do is just transfer it up to
Okay.
pay that comp time.
Gotcha.
So still in the contract amount.
Good question. Any other discussion? Roll call vote.
Holcomb.
Yes.
Nikki.
Yes.
Sarah.
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
John.
Yes.
Paige.
Yes.
Lemmings.
Yes.
Bass.
Yes.
O 2023-52.
Thank you. Sarah, you have the next one.
Be it enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled, an appropriation ordinance to amend the original appropriation ordinance O-2022-58, the annual operating budget of 2023, to increase the projected revenue and appropriate $19,212.46 into the detention center budget 1000-418 to cover costs of paying out comp time. Whereas employees of the detention center have accrued comp time that should be paid out before the end of the first of the year, and whereas these monies will need to be appropriated to cover cost. Now therefore be it ordained by the Quorum Court of Van Buren County, Arkansas, that $15,623.70 be appropriated into line item 1000-418-1001 salaries full-time, $1,195.21 into 1000-418-1006 Social Security, and $2,355 into 1000-418-1008 retirement, totaling $19,212.46. I make a motion to approve as written.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the ordinance. Any discussion?
Is this all employees' comp time or just certain ones, do we know?
Detention center employees.
Yeah, but is it all detention employees?
All of them. I thought that included sheriff's office and detention.
Well, this one just includes detention.
The next one is sheriff's office.
Here's the list. Here's the list if you want to see it.
The next one is the comp.
Eric, it says 19,000.
The next one's for the sheriff's department, totaling $9,174.25.
So let me just,
Is all of the detention employees, all of them are gonna be zeroed out? Is it comp time at the first of the year, or there's gonna be some remaining?
well, that's the question, because I don't know the answer to this. So are this, how did we get here with this comp time and?
Sheriff?
Sheriff, I think they're waiting on you up here.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, only the employees that are over 120, we were trying to bring down, it's not gonna wipe it out, it's going to reduce a lot of the comp time that's accrued. To get to zero, it would take more, and what I tried to do was use the money in my budget and not request any additional funds. So, trying to use the money in the budget to cover these comp, to be paid out at a reduced rate, because January 1, if the budget's passed, we would have to pay it out at a higher rate.
So does it, am I reading, where is this coming from? So the way that this is written, am I,
Where are the funds coming from?
yeah,
If I'm not incorrect, Pam, the part-time pay we had in the sheriff's budget
Yeah, detention,
was gonna cover the sheriff's deputies full-time, and then the detention didn't have enough part-time to cover theirs, so what was left from the sheriff's part-time was to be moved and also cover some of the detention's comp time.
because the way that this is written, it almost looks, it's not written that it's transferring. It's written that it's just appropriating more money.
It doesn't say where it's coming from.
Yeah,
Some of it was
Yeah, I
supposed to
didn't
come
transfer it
from
That's-
core.
Yeah, that wasn't on here,
Some
so
of it was
that's what we're
supposed to
missing.
come from part-time
Okay.
sheriff's budget. That's where we had the most of our
Okay.
funds.
We didn't see where it's transferred, we don't have any information about it transferring, so
Okay.
this just looked like we were adding.
Okay.
So we need it to say where it's coming from.
It's like the one before this,
Yes.
where they took it out of line.
Well,
Just
my,
like the one after this too.
right, my question was, is at the first of the year, you're still gonna have some employees that have comp time.
There'll be some that'll have some, but it'll be a small amount compared to, like, I think Rodney's got like 300 hours. Some of them will have maybe 6 hours, some will have 40, but it's not gonna be a lot.
And what he was also just saying is true, with, if the budget passes with the cost of living raise,
Right,
they would be paid out at a higher rate, so.
even though they accrued it this year, not,
They accrued it in 2022, and we're paying it at a 2022 rate, because if we pay it after January 1, we'll pay it at a much higher rate.
so they'll get paid their comp time at the new rate.
Yes.
There's no way to keep it at the old rate?
Not unless it was passed in an ordinance to do so. I don't know that we can legally do that. It's out of my field.
So we need the
Yes, we need to amend the,
verbiage.
amend this to transfer. We don't really need to increase the projected revenue. It just really needs to be a transfer.
So this changes to a transfer.
Let's,
Just so we're clear, and I'll step down, I did not want to request more funds. I
Right.
just wanted to use what was in my budget.
And you wanted to, it was supposed to come out of the core.
It was, part of it was coming from the Corps, and part of it was to come from the sheriff's part-time.
Do you have that?
I have, well, the next one I have transferring.
Right, but for this one, do you have?
This one, I don't have it transferring, so if we can amend it to transfer.
But we'll have to have the line item, so from,
It'll be 1002 out of 400.
I thought you said some of it was coming out of core too.
so it'll be 1,410 and 1002, 400.
we have so much in our packet that we're gonna have to take a break tonight. You know, it's gonna be one of those longer nights. So Pam would have time to go rewrite this ordinance.
Sure.
And during the break, if y'all would like to table this until the back end of this meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to table this ordinance until the back end of the meeting. Any discussion? All in favor of the table signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Okay.
So let me forget to do that.
The next ordinance is also sponsored by Justice Brown. I can't say Sarah because my phone thinks I'm saying that other word.
Well, I guess that means Nikki can read it, right? Be it enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled, an ordinance to transfer and appropriate monies into the Sheriff's Department, line item 1000-400, to pay out comp time. Whereas employees of the Sheriff's Department have accrued comp time that should be paid out before the first of the year, and whereas monies will need to be transferred from line item 1000-400-1002 salaries part-time to cover the cost of paying out comp time. Now, therefore be it ordained by the Quorum Court of Van Buren County, Arkansas, that $7,460.56 be transferred from line item 1000-400-1001 salaries full-time, $570.73 to 1,400-1006 Social Security, and $1,142.96 from 1,400-1008 retirement, totaling $9,174.25. I make a motion we approve as written.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. Discussion.
Is he gonna have enough money to cover both of these? I mean, you're pulling out of 9,000 out of one, and then you're taking 19,000.
Sheriff.
I'm sorry.
You have a question?
I have?
Yes. Esther has a question.
Esther has a question for you.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Esther.
Are you gonna have enough money to take 19,000 plus 9,000 out?
I'm not sure that those numbers are correct. I'm talking to Brooke, and we went over all that, and Ethan has a copy of what he sent to her, and those are not the numbers that we sent.
Numbers.
It looks to be 4,000 over.
Yeah, 4,000 over.
On the detention
Well, you have to
side.
add Social Security and retirement to that.
Okay, well then that's what's going over.
So do we need to table this one?
We were talking about the detention center here and then the sheriff's department, so.
Yes. Yes.
So are the numbers correct?
For the sheriff's
Yeah.
office.
Pam
So-
added those in, so that's what's increasing that number. So does that look right with those increased?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
But taking that into
The
account.
question still remains, will you have money to cover it?
Money to cover the Social Security and what was added?
Yes. You have 19,000 coming out of one and then 9,000 coming out of the other.
Right.
Do you have that much money?
Have it in any other line item? That's the question, within our budget.
I'll have to get a pen and look. I don't have the full-time or part-time in my thing, that's yours. And I don't ever see them until he gives it to me.
I can pull it up when we go on break.
Okay.
So we need to table this one as well?
We'll have to look at it.
Because if the line item, I make a motion to table. If the items don't support it in the budget, then we can't do it.
Second.
Motion and a second to table this ordinance to the back of this meeting? You betcha. Any discussion? All in favor
Well,
of,
hold it, if we take, well, I'm gonna come back to it, but if we don't, then it's gonna cost us more money if we wait till.
Yeah, we're gonna come back.
Yeah, we're gonna come
Yeah.
back.
To the end of the meeting.
okay. All in favor, any more discussion? All in favor of the table signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Make sure I get this in the right spot so I don't forget to go back to it. Our next ordinance is sponsored by John Bradford.
Be enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, an appropriation ordinance to be entitled, an appropriation ordinance to amend the original appropriation ordinance number 2022-58, the annual operating budget for 2023, to increase revenues and appropriate $75,000 into the county road fund 2000-0200-1001 salaries full-time and $10,000 into 2000-0200-5003 notes principal. Whereas there is a need to appropriate county road funding into Fund 2000 to pay claims for the 2023 budget year. Now therefore be it ordained by the Quorum Court of Van Buren County, Arkansas, that Section 1, $75,000 shall be appropriated into 2000-0200-1001 salaries full-time, and Section 2, $10,000 be appropriated into 2000-0200-5003 notes principal for an appropriation amount of $85,000. I move we approve this ordinance.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. Any discussion? It's from roads to roads. Any, okay, roll call vote.
Holcomb?
Yes.
Nikki?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Page?
Yes.
Lemmings?
Yes.
Bass?
Yes.
O 2023-53.
Thank you. Okay, our next ordinance, I would entertain a motion to suspend the rules to entertain the ordinance by title only.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to suspend the rules to entertain this next ordinance by title only, which is the budget. Any discussion? Roll call vote for suspension.
Holcomb.
Yes.
Nikki.
Yes.
Sarah. Phillips.
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
John.
Yes.
Paige.
Yes.
Lemmings.
Yes.
Bass.
Yeah.
Who seconded that?
Who did second that? Nikki, it's all yours. Would you? You can read what you like.
Okay. Being enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, an appropriation ordinance to be entitled, an ordinance to establish the annual operating budget for the calendar year of 2024.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to approve the ordinance?
I make a motion that we approve it.
A second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the budget ordinance. Discussion.
I just want to kind of talk a little bit about the budget this year. I want to thank everybody that was on the committee. I know that it was a lot of meetings and a lot of hours spent, and all those that came to the meetings and advocated for your people. I know sometimes we get a little tired and we, don't always want to talk about those things, but I appreciate you coming and advocating for your people, and I know how much you care, and so I appreciate that. I'm proud that this budget includes a 3% cost of living raise for everyone in the county. That's something that we haven't been able to do since I've been on the court, and so I'm proud that we were able to come to that and figure out a way to do that. I know that we had to make some difficult decisions, and but I'm proud of that. I do have to comment on the difficulty in getting here this year, and just that I don't know that I have the answer right now, and I don't know that it even needs to be discussed right now. But going forward, I just feel that there's going to have to be some kind of changes made in the process. I don't know exactly what that is, but I was disappointed to get to the 6th budget meeting and was hopeful that that was going to be a check and hopefully just a 1-hour meeting. And it was anything but that. I felt honestly like we had started over. And to put it in a little bit of perspective, the day before the meeting, where I think I'm coming in to do a final check, what I was giving didn't match the meetings that we had. And to just put it in numbers terms, 17 out of 33 departments were either changed from what had been decided, or not put in correctly, or just incorrect. So 52% when we sat down for the final review. So coming into that meeting, hours into finding that we were where we were, was disappointing. And then we had a 4-hour meeting, and then we got new information. And I was optimistic yet again that this was going to be anytime. I mean, I take this responsibility very seriously, and when I get a new packet, I've learned you go through it line by line, and so I did that. 25% of the department's numbers were wrong. And so over 20 hours later, I think it's all correct. But it was discouraging. And I don't know what the answer is. I don't know, but I know that this doesn't work as far as our job on the Quorum Court. We hold a lot of power, and we really do, but that's very much throttled by the fact that we have to do this as a consensus. And so when we left the last meeting and then still 25% was wrong, I couldn't call Virgil really and talk to, because we can't do that. We're a body and we have to meet in public. And so, it just started a process of digging in the notes, and because I can't make a decision on my own. It has to be what the committee decided. And so to have to start from the beginning again, and so there has to be a way. We're here to make the decisions, but the paperwork is not our responsibility. We should be fed, we have to be given the correct information to make the right decisions. And so I can't just read this and pass it and not address that. And so if you look through the budget, most of the highlights, all the highlights, are things that had to be researched and redone, along with the way that the funding was done, because it had to be done by the fund accounts, which I think it's all correct. I tried to note, because again, we couldn't meet again, so I tried to note everything that changed since the last draft that I gave you in the meeting, but I feel like I made no decisions outside of what was decided in the meetings, if that makes sense.
I just have to mirror
the changes.
From the time you went from one meeting to another, where were the changes?
When we would get the updated budget sheet. So for instance, an example would be the insurance amounts were in there and then they were gone at the last meeting. And so we started over and went budget by budget. Well, the first budget, it was missing. Then we had to catch it in the fourth one down the row, when I feel like it could have been said all the insurance has been removed. But so that's, I know we all have our jobs to do, but the quorum court should be thinking about big picture decisions and not about clerical work.
Yeah.
And Nikki, I don't know that she made it clear, but from the last meeting, which was last Thursday, to this meeting, she's worked 20 hours. I've worked 11. And we had to go through line by line and be very careful with what we said to each other, and basically just tell each other, yes, this matches, no, it doesn't. So, with not being able to make decisions, not being able to discuss things candidly, it was a very difficult process, but it's something that we had to do in order to have this budget tonight. It would not have happened if we didn't do that, because what we worked on in the meetings were not reflected. And you can see all of the items that are highlighted. So when she says highlighted, these are highlighted items. So personal services, I mean, not just overall numbers, but down to salaries. So I had to go back to documents that I had from August to find out salaries and then figure in raises based on that 3% raised and make sure that all of these salaries were correct. So in addition to what you see that's highlighted, on the salary items as well, we had to go through those as well.
Is that even after last week's meeting?
Yes.
Well, my question is, what made the difference? Why the changes?
That would be a question for Pam.
I can answer that. And I understand there's some that doesn't understand all the budget process. Some things were asked for that we couldn't do, like moving money from funds to other funds. The mistakes that were found, some were typos, some were from Dell's spreadsheet. Y'all were wanting him to change this budget meeting to that budget meeting, and that gets confusing. Some of them were my mistakes. But as far as health insurance, that was never taken out of the budget.
The number, no, if the insurance was in the number and then it was gone, that's how I, when I went through the thing and I said, this number's different. Emma's number was off $30,000.
Dale's number was off $10,000.
Emma's number was extremely off from what we had approved.
Because what Emma had in her budget was for everybody that had county health insurance. And as far as the auditors wanting us to do the insurance payouts at the end of the year, we were supposed to do all that at the end of the year. Y'all decided to put that back in there, that's fine.
But if we put it, but we had put it back in there and then it was removed. So if we put it in there, it has to stay in there. If the auditors say you can't do it, then we'll address it then. But I can't, when I went through to do my final check and the numbers had changed 30,000, it wasn't, hey, the numbers changed. Like, it would be different if I received an email that said, here are the updated budget sheets, I've removed XYZ. No, I have to go on a hunt. If I hadn't checked them, it would have passed through and then it would have been like, where's the money to pay it? I shouldn't if something gets changed, it should be told to me, because it cannot, I cannot make a change. It has to be the body. So I can't go through and say, well, I think that should go out now and this should change here. That's not how this works.
The payroll sheet that I send to y'all with everyone's salaries, it shows salaries, taxes, health insurance, life insurance, everything.
Right.
That is everything that should be put in personal service to cover that whole year.
Yes, I understand how all that works. What I'm saying though is if we put, if we put in a line item for bubble gum, the line item for bubble gum needs to stay. And it doesn't need to come out unless there is a discussion and the committee says we're going to remove that. We can't constantly have budget sheets where things are removed because so-and-so said this or so-and-so said that. That can only be done by the committee and then ultimately can only be approved by the whole court. I take it very serious, and that's why I spent all the time, is I didn't want to make any decision in that budget that was my own decision or my own to take it out or change. It had to have been addressed in the meeting. It was like the transfer from sanitation to the annex. That was never talked about. We can't move it and change it until it's talked about in committee and then voted on.
And there's checks and balances put into place on purpose. And I mean, I know I've said this in the budget committee meeting, and it sounds kind of elementary, but our country was founded on a democracy, not a dictatorship. And there's a reason that there are 9 of us, and 1 of you, and 1 of him, and 1 of him. Like there's a reason for that. That's checks and balances. And even from a legality standpoint, if you were to change something, you need to be covered in doing that. So when you take something out of a budget that we voted on, in my opinion, because I'm not a lawyer and this is not a case, that's illegal.
Well, nothing in this budget was intentionally taken out. Nothing.
You took out the insurance.
But
because of the...
May I make an observation? I attended all the budget committee meetings except for the last one last week. And I know the hard work that you all put into this. And I am, number one, amazed, and I'm super thankful. Do I think that there are some things that can improve that process in 2024? Absolutely. And again, I don't have the answer, but I think the discussion of how that can improve, we can do that later, because I think right now what's pertinent to this is passing this budget.
I agree.
And we can discuss all those things later, and so therefore I am going to call for point of order.
So, any further discussion on the budget?
How about the various county projects? We split them out some way, because on page 7, we got the library at $125,090. Then on 9, other services charged, you got the library for $54,000.
Yes. Okay, so you remember the library subsidy is $180.
Right.
So we split it between tribal funds. So we took out of tribal funds, we took that 50, so we split it.
Oh, that's what you're showing there, travel fund on top, page 9. Okay, all right, I'm with you. I'm tracking now.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote for approval.
Holcomb,
Yes.
Nikki,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Page.
Yes.
Lemmings.
Yes.
Bass. O 2023-54.
Okay, we have been going for an hour. It is 7 o'clock. Let's take a 10-minute break, and we'll meet back in 10 minutes. We'll call the meeting back to order.
We need to have this on.
Our next ordinance is sponsored by Justice Page.
Being enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, an appropriation ordinance to be entitled, an appropriation ordinance to amend the original appropriation ordinance number 2022-58, the annual operating budget for 2023, to increase the projected revenue and appropriate $8,700 into the senior citizen sales tax number 1000-804 and $8,000 into the volunteer fire department sales tax number 1000-502. Whereas monies will need to be appropriated to pay the fourth quarter of sales tax for the senior citizen center and the volunteer fire department. Now therefore be it ordained by the Quorum Court of Van Buren County, Arkansas, that Section 1, $8,700 will be to be appropriated into number 1000-804-3112 senior citizen sales tax, and section number 2, $8,000 be appropriated into number 1000-502-3100 sales tax for the volunteer fire departments. I move that we approve this.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Holcomb.
Yes.
Nikki.
Yes.
Sarah.
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes.
Yes.
Mike. John.
Yes.
Page.
Yes.
Lemmings.
Yes.
Bass.
Yes.
O 2023-55.
Thank you. Our next ordinance is sponsored by John Bradford.
Be it enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, an appropriation ordinance to be entitled, an appropriation ordinance to increase revenues and appropriate $21,000 into the Solid Waste Budget Fund 3009-700. Whereas actual revenues have been well above projections, and whereas there is a need to appropriate the funds, now therefore be it enacted by the Quorum Court of Van Buren County, Arkansas, that the sum of $21,000 be appropriated in the Solid Waste Budget Fund 3009-0700-3104 landfill tipping fees, $21,000. I move this ordinance be approved.
We have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. Any discussion?
Does this say where it's coming from?
It's from, yes, it's from the money generated at solid waste.
So it's doing that well.
It is. They're doing pretty good.
So I want to just make a comment about solid waste. I think it's a tremendous asset to our county. I'm thankful for the work that you guys do there. And I am very appreciative to be able to have that here. And I just wanted to acknowledge that it's an asset and a great job that is being done there. I want to say thank you.
Appreciate it.
So this, I'm sorry. It doesn't have to say where it's being appropriated from.
From the revenue.
Increased revenue.
Increased revenue.
Okay.
Yeah, from solid waste into solid waste.
From solid waste to solid waste.
We have that gap every year in solid waste because hopefully we'll catch up, but you can only appropriate 90% of your anticipated revenues. So even though it's holding its own and doing well, we still have to dig into that 90% that we can't appropriate on the front side.
Okay. Thank you.
But if you look at your fund balances, you'll see that our fund balance in solid waste now is over $100,000. So maybe it can fund some improvements in a trailer. A trailer repair.
And a storm shelter?
Maybe a store shelter too. Yeah. Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Holcomb.
Yes.
Nikki.
Yes.
Sarah.
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
John.
Yes.
Page.
Yes.
Lemmings.
Yes.
Bass.
Yes.
O 2023-56.
Okay, our next ordinance, I would entertain a motion to suspend the rules to entertain the ordinance, which is the sponsored by Mary Phillips and is the personnel policy.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to suspend the rules to entertain this ordinance. Any discussion? Roll call vote for suspension.
Holcomb?
Yes.
Nikki?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Paige?
Yes.
Lemmings?
Yes.
Bass?
Okay. Mary, would you like to read your ordinance, please?
Sure will. Be it enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, an emergency ordinance to be entitled, an emergency ordinance to amend the Van Buren County personnel policy. Whereas all county employees are bound by the terms and policies in the county handbook, and whereas the Personnel Committee has met several times and voted to make certain changes to better serve the county. Whereas the new policy is attached to this ordinance and will go into effect immediately upon passage. Now therefore be it ordained by the Quorum Court of Van Buren County, Arkansas, that Section 1, the Quorum Court finds that the immediate implementation of this ordinance is necessary to address the needs and concerns of its employees governed by this policy. I move we accept this ordinance.
Second. We have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. I would point out that there is an emergency in the title, but there is not an emergency clause on the ordinance. So would you like to, I would entertain a motion to conduct all three readings at this meeting.
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, and I believe that's going to require a rule suspension to do that. So I guess what I'm asking for is a motion and a second to suspend the rules to entertain three readings at this meeting. Okay, so a motion and a second to suspend the rules to entertain the three readings at this meeting.
Who seconded that?
Who did second that? Okay. Okay. A roll call vote for or any discussion? Roll call vote for suspension.
Holcomb?
Yes.
Nikki?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Paige?
Yes.
Lemmings?
Yes.
Bass?
Yes.
Okay. Mary, would you like to read your ordinance again by title only?
By title only. Be it enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, an emergency ordinance to be entitled, an emergency ordinance to amend the Van Buren County personnel policy.
Okay, third and final reading, please.
Be it enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, an emergency ordinance to be entitled, an emergency ordinance to amend the Van Buren County personnel policy.
Excellent. We'll open the floor up for discussion on the ordinance.
Okay, can I start by explaining?
You can do whatever
Okay.
you like.
I put a piece of paper that looked like this in front of you while you guys were gone, or we had a intermission there, and you have your new personnel policy in front of you also. So what I did is I took all of the things that we changed and condensed them here, told you where they were. Okay? And incidentally, they are in either light green or light blue. All right? All right. So the first one was, it was a simple one. It's the employees would have their vacation. This is discussing about when, if an employee left their work and then came back, they would have their vacation and personnel benefits prorated upon their return. Okay, that's the first one. And the one on page 18 is each non-exempt county employee shall personally sign his or her timesheet every day. Now, we had a long discussion about this in the meeting, that it seems kind of a silly thing, or, do you have to do that? But oftentimes people will leave their work, come back over the weekend, and then go back and put their time in. They've forgotten what their times were. Okay? So, the next one on page 19 is we did not have anything that addressed a direct deposit. So, we now have 100% direct deposit, and I put in there that the employees will give a voided check and make sure the numbers are correct. It's up to the employees to double check their numbers. Okay. All right. The one on page 22 There's the one that's changed to reimburse. That's about the insurance. The wording. Page 23, another one, what is ineligible, and it says marketplace insurance is ineligible for an employee to say, I've got this insurance, a marketplace, and that is the low-cost government insurance, okay? It's ineligible. It can't be used, okay? All right, page 23, we added a sentence, employees in the Sheriff's Department, Detention Center, and 911 will receive their holiday pay in one lump sum in their first December paycheck.
It's not, 911 is not on mine.
Oh,
It's on mine.
it's on mine. You sure we're on page?
I'm looking at the,
Oh.
I'm not talking about your page here, I'm talking about in here. It says employees in the Sheriff's Department and Detention Center will receive their holiday pay in one lump sum in the first December paycheck.
We voted to not include 911 because they didn't get holiday pay.
That's right.
There was a link.
Okay.
Personnel committee.
All right, so it's not 911. Okay, it's Sheriff's Department and Detention Center, and it's not in here, right?
Correct.
Okay, we're good. All right.
And that was voted on by the committee.
Yes, it was. All right, the next one is a real simple one. When is Martin Luther King Day? Instead of a date, we gave the third Monday in January. And then it was the accrued sick leave may not exceed 480 hours. This is on page 24. And then the big one, a doctor's note may be requested. Okay, we went round and round about that one, but it is now up to the elected official. If they need to, they can ask for one, but it may be required, okay? Page 28, premium pay must be authorized by the elected official and accounted for with a separate county-approved form, okay? And the last one, page 29, is we did not have anything on travel. So we now have a travel portion. Okay, that's the update. Now, anybody got any questions?
Are we able to go ahead and pass this using the word reimbursement until we get written confirmation from auditors?
That I don't know.
And then maybe come back and amend?
We can do anything, I mean, I would think.
What do we do, just table this one until the next meeting?
There would
Table
be,
this ordinance, or just that second?
No, why don't we just go ahead and pass it and then amend it, because it'd be easier than one word than
Yeah.
than having all these things to,
All right.
some of these hours and stuff need to be passed before
Well-
the new year.
I guess, okay, so we should probably take care of this ordinance first.
I guess we have to judge that question, I don't want that.
But,
You're doing a good job answering.
but this ordinance also includes the word reimbursement, so I don't know I don't know if the cart's before the horse again, or.
I believe the discussion was just to leave the word reimbursement in there for now, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and we've been told that that could happen.
You can leave that in there, absolutely. You can always amend it later.
Okay.
Okay.
And we'll have to revisit that with the other ordinance we tabled as well.
Let's do one thing.
Yeah.
This,
Yeah.
yeah.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Holcomb,
Yes.
Nikki,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Paige,
Yes.
Lemmings, Bass. O 2023-57.
I have a dumb question. When something comes out of a committee, like the personnel committee or the budget committee, when something is presented to us from committee, does it have to have a motion and a second? Because it's coming from a committee, you already have 5 people that have agreed to it.
It does.
So it still has to have a motion and a
Yes.
second?
Yes.
Okay. Just
We just
curious.
discussed them there, but it's gotta be approved by the whole board.
I know it's gotta be approved, but I'm just saying that you already have your, anyway, you're good enough. I'm good enough with that. I mean, I understand the whole court's gotta vote on it. I'm just saying they have to have a motion.
And that's a good question, but yes, it does. And I can show you some law on that.
I trust you. You're good.
Okay. Our next one is one that would be coming off the table, and that would be the one sponsored by Mary Phillips. The long one. That was the first one that got tabled, I believe, unless I got him out of order.
Okay.
And since this was already on the table, do I hear a motion to pull? Do I have to pull it back off the table? Let's do it to make sure.
Yeah.
Do I hear a motion to pull this back off?
Second.
Okay. Motion and second to untable this ordinance. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Awesome. So we're back up to discussion.
So we passed the personnel policy with the amendment.
But it doesn't say the same thing. In this one, it says cash payout, and now in the personnel policy, it's reimbursement.
And there isn't any need well, depending upon what the auditors say, to do all of these line items for fringe benefits if it's so can we even use this ordinance?
Well, when does this payout happen? Isn't it about to happen?
Yes.
So she has to know is the thing. Well, what if we amended this to say reimbursement, but we went ahead and appropriated the money? So if the answer came in
Appropriated the total.
and it had to be done that way, it would be there? Or is that?
I think you're gonna have to do that until we can get an answer.
So what I would really like to do, because of course this meeting is being recorded, the chair of that committee is, well, it's going to be really co-chaired because it's going to have a budget piece to it and a personnel policy piece to it. So would you convey to the court in as clear of a definition as you can what is the intent behind this ordinance? What do you want to happen regardless of what verbiage is used and what words are used? What is the clear intent behind this ordinance?
I would say to reimburse those people who did not take the insurance, did not use the insurance, who I think you have to sign a waiver, thank you. And so that they are reimbursed for not getting the insurance.
Okay, at what rate?
That's the problem.
At what rate?
We have it 75%.
And I would say that also in our conversations, I feel, and I know I'm the chair, but if someone on that committee disagrees, I want you to say that. We use the word reimbursement because that was the word that we were giving. I don't think that I never had the intent for them to show me proof of what they had paid and it would be a reimbursement based on that. It would basically be paying them a portion because it's 75% of because we're not having to pay for them to be on our insurance. Because the reality is if we don't offer that, they're just going to be on the insurance. Whether or not that increases premiums, we still are going to have to pay $10,000. So to us, it was a wash. So if they don't want it, but I didn't think that they had to pay that amount for their insurance. If they wanted to go with a catastrophic policy and pay $200 a month, I don't care.
Because it still saves the county money.
Yes. So
that's the bottom line.
That's the bottom line.
The county is.
But it's not necessarily reimbursement in the way that I would be requiring a receipt.
So are we, the verbiage we were discussing earlier, is it that one way we don't take retirement and we don't add retirement and stuff like that,
Right.
and another way it would be
Yes.
a flat 75% of whatever the insurance is?
And that's how we've been doing it, like that all got taken out of it.
Okay.
And then it got brought up that all these issues and that there was a possibility of just doing it as a reimbursement. Didn't cost us anything. They got more money and it's not their earned income. I mean, just a lot of it seemed at the time like an easy, win-win.
Then we got in the mud.
I appreciate you clarifying that on the record. And now we know what clear intents are. So I think we have a good notion of where we're headed.
So
What needs to be
whatever
done.
we call it, we're wanting to give them back the money, or give them the money that they did not take for the insurance, and add the Social Security, retirement, and that kind of stuff to it.
Well, that's how we've been doing it. What we
Okay.
wanted to do was not pay those amounts and
Okay.
just do it as potentially a stipend. I mean, or per diem, or, it's not a per diem, but a stipend, I think is is a really good word for it. I think that's more the definition of what I was thinking.
Any way we could change that word to stipend? Oh, then we'd have to go back to the personnel policy. Yes.
Policy.
Next month you can change anything. That's why I really wanted your clear intent on the record, so.
And what brought that up, as we said earlier, was the fear that we were paying fringe benefits, paying an overage, which was being added to their overall salary. So when it comes to retirement, it showed that they were making more money because of an insurance stipend, whatever, that went to their overall salary. And we were paying retirement on that.
Yeah.
And that's what Rose.
Any further discussion?
So are we gonna vote on, are we gonna,
Yeah, what are we doing with this?
Section 1, 2, and 3 is not what they're trying to do.
It's not what we wanted to do.
No, but I think what the discussion is to leave section 1, 2, and 3 in there, in case that we come back and we have to pay that out, then it's already appropriated to do that.
can we amend this to say, in the event that do you see what I'm saying? This reads as that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, I would be for in the event of, or however you want to say that.
So how do we take care of it? Because this has to be paid.
Yeah, very soon.
Yeah, like next week.
Right, so how are we going to have the verbiage correct without?
Okay. Would you like to motion that even if it threw line items in the red, you would wish to do that and clean it up at next month's meeting?
Yes.
Would you be willing to do that, and then we wouldn't even need this ordinance?
Okay, so let's just think about that for just a second. If the stipend is given, and then we've got to come back and the county's got to pay the taxes and the retirement and all that out of that, where does that put us?
We have to run a cleanup ordinance every year anyway. So this could be a part of that, which just zeroes everything out.
So I guess what I'm asking, let's just say that the number is 5,000, and part of my intent when we discussed all this was that the taxes and all that wouldn't be held out, that the employee would actually get that amount of money. And if we give that amount of money and then we've got to come back and pay it, are we not going to be paying more? That's what I'm saying. So we're going to pay that plus then turn around and pay that again. So I think that
Then we're going in the hole, yeah.
we're going to go in the hole there. So I don't think that we can do that.
How do we resolve this before the first pay period?
Well, let me ask you this, we've already paid it.
An option, and it's not to me ideal, but because we don't know exactly what the auditor is going to wording that we got to use, what if we just did it this way, like we've been doing it this year, and the next year we start that new and let's do it the way that we've been doing it.
What about, since we just passed that handbook though?
Yeah, that's going to need.
Because we did it as an emergency.
As an emergency, it goes in effect right now. It went into effect 30 minutes ago.
So can we do this and amend the sections and just take the totals
You can do
Take the total
anything
number.
you like.
That's good.
and appropriate the total number to, that would cover
Correct.
all
that in a transfer?
potential costs.
But we cannot pay them out. Again, to David's point, if we pay them out at the higher amount and the taxes are due on us, we can't go in the hole to do this.
And we can't go back and say, oh, well, you got to give us this much money. And we can't do that either.
Yeah, we can't do that. What if we paid them like we have paid them every other time, that amount, their net, until we got the answer? We held the taxes and then we gave them the difference if it's approved.
I'm smelling what you're stepping in.
What about, when is this paid out? Monthly, at the end of the year? It's at the end of the year. So it's not going to be paid out this next pay period.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. That's why we're.
It, for the end of the year, for this one that rolls over. Oh, okay.
So if we went ahead and appropriated, but we just paid them the net.
Yep.
We hold it until we know the answer, and then it either goes to them or the powers that be.
It's not like we have to send all that money
That's a good idea.
out.
I like
It'll
it.
still be there in case we have to give that to them too.
And they're getting what they thought they were gonna get anyway.
They're getting what they thought they were gonna get, and they might have more coming to them.
Yeah.
You understood what I was saying, didn't you? Yes, you did.
Okay. Yeah.
Then how do we write
So
that?
I move that that's what we do. I move that we
Second.
pay the net and hold the difference, and the difference will either go to the employee or to,
Why couldn't you hold it? You just gotta, it should be another, wait, next.
Hold their checks.
No, you give them the check of the amount, the salaries, and just hold the other back till we figure out what needs to be done.
Papers and tax.
Right.
the frame.
Retirement, social security and that stuff.
You just hold that in the account to see if they've had to pay that, then we have the money, or do they get it later? It should be a later payment on it.
I don't know, because we had to figure out how much taxes would come out of their part, right?
Mm-mm. It's already here.
well, it'd be the same that they would get every year, up until now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, that's
and then just hold that in some kind of, liability account to them. And then if it ends up that we owe the taxes, we pay the IRS. If it ends up we don't, we pay them.
Employee. Good thinking.
Are we able to do that without coming back to vote on it? I mean, like,
I think if we motion correctly here.
Do we have to change the wording though?
Well, let's.
Just put your thoughts into a motion, Nikki, because you worded it very well.
I motion that we amend this ordinance to pay the 75% in a net payout to the employee, holding back Social Security and retirement until it is determined if that liability is payable to the employee or to Social Security and retirement.
Second.
Okay, so let me read this and see if this sounds correct. I heard a motion to issue 75% to the employee, holding back FICA and APRS until further clarification is received.
Yes.
Oh, that sounds good.
Okay. And did we already have a motion and a second on that?
Second.
Holcomb is a motion, and who's the second?
I was the
Nikki
second.
made
It's
it.
the second, okay. Motion and second for the amendment. All in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So now we will entertain any further discussion or a vote as amended. Any more discussion? Okay. Roll call vote for the amended ordinance.
As amended. Holcomb,
Yes.
Nikki,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Page,
Yes.
Lemmings,
Yes.
Bass.
Yes.
O 2023-58.
Okay. I believe our next item that we tabled was Sarah Brown's ordinance. And as the author of the ordinance, per our procedural manual, the author can pull or replace at their discretion. So, Sarah, did you replace this ordinance?
I was given this replacement ordinance.
Okay.
I'm still not sure about the title.
Okay. So, do I hear a motion to take this ordinance back off the table?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second to take this ordinance that Sarah Brown tabled or Sarah Brown sponsored back off the table. Any discussion?
Which one?
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The $19,000 one.
The detention
We're
center.
off the table. Yes.
It doesn't say.
That's the number.
It says in the at the bottom where it's coming from.
Yeah.
Okay. And for clarity's sake, since this was a rewrite, Sarah, would you mind rereading this ordinance?
I don't mind. I do need to ask. It does say it in the bottom where it's coming from. Does it need to say it in the title? Okay. Being enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled, an ordinance to transfer $19,212.46 into the detention center budget, line item 1,418, to cover cost of paying out comp time. Whereas employees of the detention center accrued comp time that should be paid out before the first of the year, and whereas these monies will need to be transferred to cover costs. Now therefore be it ordained by the Quorum Court of Van Buren County, Arkansas, that $12,788.02 be transferred from line item 1,002 salaries part-time into line item 1,418 1,001 salaries full-time. $2,845.68 transferred from 1,009 health insurance into 1,418 1,001 salaries full-time. $1,195.21 transferred from 1,400 1,012 salaries part-time into 1,418 1,006 Social Security. $2,393.55 transferred from 1,400 1,002 salaries part-time into 1,418 1,008 retirement, totaling $19,212.46. Make a motion we approve as written.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. As far as discussion, I just have one little small item. There is nothing in this ordinance that isn't an appropriation, but it's not titled an appropriation ordinance, it's just an ordinance. So had y'all rather amend this to an appropriation ordinance or do 3 reads?
3 reads.
Okay. So do I hear a motion to suspend the rules for the purpose of conducting all 3 reads at this meeting by title only?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second to suspend the rules to entertain all 3 reads of this ordinance at this time by title only. Any discussion? Roll call vote for suspension.
Holcomb,
Yes.
Nikki,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Page,
Yes.
Lemmings,
Yep.
Bass.
Yes.
Okay. Sarah, would you care to do the second reading by title only?
Be it enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled, an ordinance to transfer $19,212.46 into the detention center budget, line item 1,418, to cover costs of paying out comp time.
Thank you. And the third and final reading, please.
Be it enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled, An ordinance to transfer $19,212.46 into the detention center budget, line item 1,418, to cover the cost of paying out comp time.
Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call vote for approval.
Holcomb.
Yes.
Nikki.
Yes.
Sarah.
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
John.
Yes.
Paige.
Yes.
Lemmings.
Yes.
Bass.
Yes.
O 2023-59.
Appreciate y'all being so patient with me being a stickler on procedure. Some of these probably don't have to be done as deeply as we do, but it's better to be safe than sorry. The next item that I have that we tabled, correct me if I'm wrong, is for the Sheriff's Department for comp time payout. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to pull this ordinance from the table?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and second to pull this ordinance from the table. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Sarah, it is all yours.
Be it enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled, an ordinance to transfer and appropriate monies in the Sheriff's Department, line item 1,000-400, to pay out comp time. Whereas employees of the Sheriff's Department have accrued comp time that should be paid out before the first of the year, and whereas monies will need to be transferred from line item 1,400-1002, salaries part-time, to cover the cost of paying out comp time. Now therefore be it ordained by the Quorum Court of Van Buren County, Arkansas, that $7,460.56 be transferred to line item 1,000-400-1001, salaries full-time, $570.73 to line item 1,000-400-1006, Social Security, $1,142.96 to line item 1,000-400-1008, retirement, totaling $9,174.25. Make a motion we approve as written.
We have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. This one, again, is not an appropriation. It's an ordinance.
It's got appropriation on it.
Transfer and appropriate.
The last one did too, though, because we need to be appropriating.
It's not titled an appropriation ordinance, so I would feel more comfortable if we conduct 3 reads. Do I hear a motion to suspend the rules for the purpose of entertaining all 3 reads?
Who's second?
Title only. It was Mary and John Bradford. Any discussion on suspension? Roll call vote for suspension.
Holcomb.
Yes.
Nikki.
Yes.
Sarah.
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
John.
Yes.
Paige.
Yes.
Lemmings.
Yes.
Bass.
And actually, we read it before it was tabled. We read it after it was tabled. So, Sarah, would you do the third and final reading by title only at this time, please?
Be it enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled, an ordinance to transfer and appropriate monies into the Sheriff's Department, line item 1,000-400, to pay out comp time.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion?
I know there was some question whether the sheriff had enough money. Would you explain to them what you explained to us earlier about the money? Were you gonna have enough money to do this?
When we went into Pam's office and talked to her, the funds are there, that we moved from, Brooke, which line item?
Health insurance.
Health insurance.
35,000 of that, 2,000 is gonna be moved to cover the detention comp.
Because
What's-
the funds are there, but they're showing they're not, but they're down in the health. For some reason, it's been paid out of the wrong line item.
The
but
health
the
has been
money's
paid
there.
over the full-time
Salaries.
sheriffs.
So that reduced it. But the money's actually in the health. So once the money's moved back, it's there.
But it's not something we have to do because it's in the same bracket.
Yeah.
Same bracket and pretty much clerical error.
I couldn't tell you. All we have to do is go in and change the numbers, and then it puts it back in to full-time salaries.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Holcomb,
Yes.
Nikki,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Philip,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Paige,
Yes.
Lemmings,
Yes.
Bass.
Yes.
O 2023-60.
We are up to transfers, and I would entertain a motion that we suspend the rules for the purpose of dispensing with the audible reading.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to suspend the rules for the purpose of dispensing with the audible reading of the transfers. Any discussion? And I think I'm getting ahead of Pam here. Tell me when you're ready.
Go ahead.
Roll call vote for suspension.
Holcomb,
Yes.
excuse me, Nikki,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Philip,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Paige,
Yes.
Lemmings, Bass.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to approve the transfers?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the transfers. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any public comments? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Any opposed?
Opposed?
Merry Christmas.